Besides Yoda, which characters in all the Star Wars movies have died of natural causes? That is the question that we're asking today. That question was posed to me by one of my friends. We are not counting any of the standalone movies like Rogue One or Solo. We're not counting any of the cartoons or anything else like that. We're just counting the main Star Wars movies, or at least I'm just counting the main Star Wars movies. When this question was presented to me, I did not consider Rogue One or Solo. I considered only the main Star Wars movies, episode 1 through episode 8. So that's all I'm going to be considering in this video. So let's get started. We're also only going to look at major characters or semi-major characters. If, a bunch of people get killed by a bunch of stormtroopers, I might bring it up. Or if they die in some kind of accidents, I might bring it up, but we're not really going to linger on it. It's going to get more like a side mention. So let's get into it. So our first death that I can recall, and I'm doing this without rewatching all the movies, but the first death is Qui-Gon Jinn. Qui-Gon Jinn gets stabbed by Darth Maul. And shortly after that, Darth Maul gets cut in half by Obi-Wan Kenobi. So there's your first two deaths right there. I don't really, like I said, we're not looking at the cartoons or any other standalone movies. So as far as I'm concerned, Darth Maul is dead. And that's really it for Phantom Menace. Other than, like I said, there's during the pod race, you get a few pod racers probably died in those accidents, but not really sure. Moving on to episode 2. So episode 2, I believe our first death is Zam Wesell. Zam Wesell gets shot with a poison dart by Jango Fett. So that's our first death right there. Now after that, we get Shmi Skywalker. She dies after being tortured to death by Sand People. Anakin finds her, and in a fit of rage, he kills off the entire village of Sand People. Okay, so and after that happens, towards the end of episode 2, Jango Fett gets beheaded by Mace Windu. And I believe that's our last death in episode 2. So let's move on to episode 3. Now in episode 3, we actually have a lot of deaths because we have all these Jedi floating around, and everybody knows that they either got to get scattered or they got to be eliminated for the next movies. So in comes Order 66. All these Jedi generals get killed. Most of them, I think they're named in the expanded universe, stuff like that. But yeah, all these Jedi get taken out by troopers, clone troopers. Mace Windu actually gets blown out a window by, I believe the Emperor ends up doing it. It might be Anakin. I can't remember which one, but Mace Windu gets blown out a window. He gets killed. Anakin kills all the Padawans in the Jedi Temple under the Emperor's orders. That's part of Order 66, or part of the plan of Order 66. The Emperor ends up giving the execution order of Order 66 to the troopers, but obviously he just tells Anakin that he needs to go to the Jedi Temple and kill all the Padawans. Count Dooku gets beheaded by Anakin. This is again on Palpatine's order. Palpatine pretty much tells him, once he defeats him in battle, he tells him to kill him. Anakin clearly struggles with this, but he kills him. General Grievous gets killed by Obi-Wan. Surprisingly, not with a lightsaber. He gets shot with a blaster. Padme dies of her injuries. I know in the movie they say, the robot says there's nothing physically wrong with her. She appears to be just dying of a broken heart. No. And even if it was, I wouldn't even call that natural causes. In my opinion, Anakin force choked her at some point prior to that. And in my opinion, that injured her enough forced her into labor. That's what killed her. Because she died right after naming the twins. Now, as far as I can remember, that's all for the prequel trilogy. So let's move on to the original trilogy now. First death, the captain of the Tantive 4, Captain Antilles, I believe he's referred to. He actually grabs him and lifts him off the floor, chokes him to death, crushes his neck. Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen, they get killed by stormtroopers. We don't see them get killed, but we see the burning mass of their home, and we see their burning skeletons. Yeah, so they get killed. And of course, Greedo gets killed while trying to collect the bounty on Han's head. For the record, Greedo never fired a shot. Han killed him. That's it. Obi-Wan gets struck down by Darth Vader. Don't get me wrong, Obi-Wan lets himself be killed, but Obi-Wan gets struck down by Darth Vader. And then we get, towards the end of the movie, we get various X-Wing and Y-Wing pilots. Porkins gets killed. Some other ones, I can't remember all their names. Biggs gets killed. If I'm not mistaken, only one Y-Wing pilot survives. Can't remember his name. Wedge survives. Everyone else, except obviously Luke and the others, all get killed. Finally, Tarkin and everyone on board the Death Star gets killed when the Death Star gets destroyed. Now let's move on to Episode 5. This, in my opinion, is kind of the fun one because the first person to get killed is Admiral Ozzel. Admiral Ozzel gets force choked by Darth Vader because he dropped out of light speed too close to Hoth, and it means that they can't do an orbitable a bombardment from orbit because the rebels put up the force field. So now they have to deploy ground troops and attack the base. Luke's gunner Dak gets killed due to a small explosion inside the snowspeeder, likely due to damages sustained during the fight. Okay, after that, Captain Needa gets force choked by Darth Vader. He gets force choked because he lost the Falcon. They were chasing it, and he gets killed over losing the Falcon. And even though it seems like Vader kills a lot of people with a force choke, he doesn't. He kills 2 people. And I think all the movies he only kills 2 people. It probably seems like he force chokes a lot of people to death because he force chokes someone whose name I can't remember right now in Episode 4. Vader doesn't actually force choke as many people as it seems. It just kind of, it appears it because every time he gets mad, people start to get worried because his force choking is kind of his thing. Okay, moving on to Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. First death, Boba Fett, I believe. Boba Fett, he gets knocked into the Sarlacc pit. He's dead. After that, we get Jabba. We get Leia strangles Jabba the Hutt to death. And of course, we get various bounty hunters that fall into the Sarlacc pit throughout that whole scene. Okay, so after that, then that is when we come to the only death of natural causes that I can recall in the entirety of all 8 so far Star Wars movies, and that is Yoda. Yoda dies of natural causes at this point, right after telling Luke some things, you know, there's another one, there is another, and all that stuff. Yoda dies, and then we, of course, get Obi-Wan appearing and talking to Luke about some things. So that's the only death of natural causes so far. After that, Luke goes to see Vader and the Emperor, and of course, Vader ends up killing the Emperor, throws him down the shaft. That kills the Emperor. Well, so we thought. He's coming back in Episode 9. Anyway, Vader dies of his injuries shortly after that. And that's the last death from Episode 6. Then we go to Episode 7, and we get the old man at the beginning gives the piece of the map to Poe. He gets hacked down by Kylo Ren. That's our first death in Episode 7, The Force Awakens. And then, of course, towards the end of Episode 7, or maybe not towards the end, but Han gets killed by Kylo Ren. Han gets stabbed. I think those are the only two deaths in Episode 7. In Episode 8, we get Kylo Ren killing Snoke with essentially Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber, Kylo Ren's grandfather. He uses the Force to turn the lightsaber sideways and ignite it right into Snoke's side, and then he pulls it towards him, slicing Snoke in half. After that, we get Vice Admiral Holdo. She sacrifices herself, basically. She does that light speed jump through that Star Destroyer, so she dies. And then we get Luke, who appears to what I would call burning himself out, doing an astral projection. I don't think this doesn't qualify, in my opinion, as dying of natural causes, because he basically used up a lot of energy and then died. I wouldn't call it a suicide either, but I don't think we can put it into the natural causes category. So, yeah, this one doesn't count as natural causes. And I think that's it in the entire Star Wars saga. So yeah, it looks like Yoda is the only character in the entirety of Episode 1 through 8 so far. Episode 9 is not out, so we can't count it yet, who dies of natural causes. Did I miss anyone? Is it weird that only one character in 8 movies has died of natural causes? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of future videos. And we'll see you in the next one.